Hi, it's Pat Gillis here, and I'm so glad you could join us. If you were coming to my riding school right now as a complete beginner, one of the most important things that I would want to teach you is to have an awareness of how the horse sees the world. It's important for us to recognize that we're entering into the horse's world, so to speak, and the passport that we need to get there is to see things the way he sees things. Not only does it make for a better connection to our horses, but it keeps us safer too. The horse sees physically differently and psychologically differently, I guess you could say. And that's what we're going to go over here. One of the things that's really different about a horse's eyes compared to ours is, again, because of the way they're set on the side of the horse's head, he's got great peripheral vision, but his forward vision, his binocular vision, when he uses both eyes at the same time, is not as effective as ours because he's got a big blind spot out in front of him, and again, the same out behind. So when he has his head down grazing, his peripheral vision can see all the way around him, and the way his eye focuses, he actually, when his head is down, he's looking out through the top part of his eye, and that is his longest range vision, so he can be checking the horizon. But when he is startled by something and wants to see something and focus on it a little closer, he has to lift his head up to do that. Kind of like I am with my bifocals, if I'm trying to look through the bottom part of my glasses so that I can see the fine print. So you'll see when these guys get startled, their first impulse is to run away, of course, but then secondly, they turn around to look, but look how high they hold their heads now, so that they can really get a clear picture of what it was that scared them. And just a fun fact, if you ever look in the horse's eye, and you notice in his pupil that it's got those little sort of raggedy edges on the edge of the pupil, that is called the corpora nigra. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, so this is how it's spelled. At any rate, that acts like a little bit protects the horse from the sun, kind of like wearing a baseball cap. Where the horse has considerably better vision than us is at night. So, if you're riding at night or if you see a horse out in the dark, he can apparently see about 50% better than we can in the darkness. Like he can really use what little light there is to find his way around. The problem is that when you bring a horse in from really bright outside into the dark in the barn, it takes the horse a lot longer than it does us for his eyes to adjust. If you combine that with the fact that the horse has to be about 50% closer to an object in order to see it as clearly as we do, it's really important that his eyes get to adjust. And as the horse gets older, that adjustment time can take even longer. So sometimes it's as much as 40 minutes for an old horse to be able to get used to the relative darkness of a barn. So you always want to keep that in mind when you're working with them. In terms of how the horse sees color, he probably sees the way a colorblind person does, so it's not terrific, but it's not too bad. One of the subtler things about a horse, and it's not always apparent, but you'll see if a horse has a pain in his eye, what you'll often see, like the horse's eyelashes are more or less horizontal to the ground, but when a horse's eye is uncomfortable, the eyelashes tend to sort of orientate themselves towards the ground. It's kind of a subtle thing, but it's a good thing to kind of make a note of if you're trying to see if your horse's eye is bothered by something. If you watch when a horse yawns, that's a great time to catch it. You'll see that the horse has what's called the third eyelid or the nictitating membrane. The kids love to say that around here because it's kind of a fun word to say, the nictitating membrane. And what happens with the nictitating membrane, it starts here and it kind of goes across the horse's eye and back, kind of like a little windshield wiper. It's sometimes hard to catch it. Like if you watch here, we've got a video of Ash and you can see her nictitating membrane. I have to slow it right down so that you can actually see it, and there you go. And now you see it comes back down underneath her eye. Here it comes. There it is. And then she pulls it back down as she opens her eye. But before we finish with eyes, let's go back to the part that probably has the most impact on our relationship with the horse. If you look at the horse's eyes being on the side of his head and compare it to the predators that are on display in these pictures, you can see a huge difference. The horse knows that he's the hunted one, and he also knows what hunters look like. And that's probably something we should keep in mind when we're working with horses. especially given where our eyes are placed in our heads. He recognizes us as a predator, and the fact that he trusts us and still wants to work with us is a trust that we should never ever betray. So thanks again for joining us. If I can just offer you one word of advice, don't listen to anyone that tells you that horses are stupid. I find that such a distasteful attitude to have towards horses. They're not stupid at all. In actual fact, I find them hugely intelligent. They just see things differently than we do. And the more we can grasp that, the more we can understand that, the closer we can get and the better connection we're going to have with the horse. Thanks again for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon.